Morning, everybody. Welcome to Soapbox Slam, where I get on my soapbox and I talk about the things that I see going on. I made a few posts. One of the posts that I want to clarify, and it's not even clarifying on the post. I want to be clear to people out there a lot of things about my positions. Number one, so this is what I'm on my soapbox about today, this morning, is I just want to be very clear. So there's no misinterpretation and no confusion about where I'm coming from, okay? Number one, I do not support raising a minimum wage whatsoever. All raising, in my opinion, and what I have seen historically happen, every time you raise the minimum wage, automatically the companies start raising the price of their goods to try and make up the difference that they have to now pay their employees. The problem with raising a minimum wage is that all it does is inflate the prices of the cost of goods around them. And so, as I stated in a post earlier, it increases inflation on individual sectors, and it increases the inflation rate. The inflation rate, that being which the cost of living over time. So raising the minimum wage to me is futile. I do not believe in a government mandate on minimum wage. That I don't agree with. It's unfortunate that the government tries to raise the minimum wage and the corporations immediately raise the price of goods, because quite simply the corporations can tremendously afford to raise these wages and still be profitable. The problem is the corporations want gross profits. And when I say gross profits, I mean when McDonald's pays $15 an hour and they make $155 billion a year over year. And when they say they're profitable, that means this year they made 155 billion. That means next year, in order for them to determine something profitable, the new zero is 155 billion, and they have to make 156 billion in order to be profitable, because that's how they do their math. They don't start at zero again. Now, I get we don't want the government, I don't want the government necessarily telling businesses how they get to do their businesses or how everything else. But by the same token, I do want the government to put in regulations, and these regulations be punitive to companies that decide to determine profit and shareholder priority over working workers priority. And that is just how I see everything. Now, people who it amazes me that people who don't even have money, aren't even rich, working class people, want to call themselves Republicans, want to call themselves capitalists, do not see the advantage of an entire society being prosperous as opposed to a select few being prosperous. All of you people who are touting republicanism and capitalism without it being true capitalism and everything else, and if you do not see the whole benefit of everybody being prosperous, even the poorest working class people being prosperous, then you do not understand how upward mobility works. You really don't. And I would suggest that you look into the ideas of upward mobility and everything else, because it's not just a concept of bootstrap. Your antiquated argument, and the reason why it's antiquated is because it is not defining how the system really works. But I want to be clear. I'm not going to go on to that, because I'll do plenty more rants about people's perspective about how to build yourself up. Number one, I do not support increasing a minimum wage. Okay? Corporations and companies need to start finding it within themselves to grant wages, higher wages to people, because it's the right thing to do. Because it's what will increase society values. It's what will, by increasing their wages, it's what will allow them to spend money on shit. It's what they ought to be doing because it's the right thing to do, period. And we have gotten into 40 to 50 years of selfishness in American society, and that's what it is. Pure selfishness in American society, particularly when it comes to richer people and corporations and corporate managers and board structures and things like that. You know, we are a young country in comparison to a lot of the other countries, and that's why European countries operate the way they do and why they look more quote unquote socialistic, is because they're much older countries and they've already had their civil unrests. They've already had their overthrow of government. America has not had that yet. And I can tell you, you rich people keep going down the track that you're going, I guarantee you, people will start to overthrow you. And unfortunately, we're such a leader in the whole world. You overthrow the American system and everything collapses. So fucking fix it. So number one, I do not support a mandatory government minimum wage increase. Corporations need to increase the wages because it's the right fucking thing to do. And if those companies are not going to do it because it's the right thing to do, then we need to stop buying from those companies. Stop going to them. Shut their shit down by not giving them our money anymore. That's what we need to do. Number one, I do not support a minimum wage, mandatory wage increase. My perspective is different. I complain about the wages, but it does not mean that I want the government to step in and give a minimum mandatory wage. Get it right. Do not misquote me. Do not misunderstand me. Just because I think wages need to be higher does not mean I believe that the government should mandate a minimum wage. Be clear about that. Be clear about my fucking position. Number one. Number two, I do not want financing in this country anymore. Get it the fuck out. The banks are killing us. I do not believe in financing. I do not believe in the banks. They are eating away and destroying everything that is prosperous about America. I do not support banks. One iota, one anything. I do not believe in banks. I do not support banks. The banks have gotten so corrupted. They are now infiltrating. That corruption is now infiltrating community credit unions. And now credit unions are starting to behave like big banks. It's disgusting. The banks and the concept of financing is destroying America, because by financing, they force profits to increase. And the reason why by financing profits increase is because if you finance, it forces whoever is manufacturing that product to raise the price of the product, because now the consumer has the option to finance for that product. The product has no value, but the price is higher because we can finance for it. So the banks get a cut and the company that manufactures gets a cut. That's why automobiles are now $100,000 or $60,000, because we finance for the automobile. We finance for 8 years for this automobile. So we're paying the banks an additional amount of money, and the corporation has raised the price of the product. So the corporation is making money, a larger profit, but the value of that product, the car or whatever else, is not any higher. In fact, it's cheaper. We use cheaper materials, fiberglass, no longer steel or aluminum or anything else, right? Fiberglass, supposedly a cheaper material. That's why they moved to it. It was supposed to be cheaper. Oh, I guarantee you, it's not labor cost that is the reason why a vehicle is $100,000 or $60,000 for a sedan or coupe. It's not because of labor. If it was because of labor, then the profits that Ford made last year, which is like $25 billion, would not exist. It would not exist. It's not labor and it's not material. It's the financing that has allowed the corporation to increase the price, making us finance to buy, and then the corporation and the banks make all the money. If you take the financing and the banks out of the equation, the prices of shit will have to be the value that people can pay. Get the fucking banks out of this country. Get the fucking financing out of this country. That's the problem. And the things that you as an individual, what you can do is start complaining to your representatives and start making laws or petitions to get these fucking companies out, these banking companies out. So make very clear my position on banks. Banks are destroying, financing are destroying American prosperity, period, point blank. There is no other explanation. There isn't. This is our biggest detriment. Fucking banks and financing. So let me make clear. I do not want mandatory wage increase. Just because I believe that people should make more money does not mean that I believe the federal government should force it. No. Number one. Number two, I do not believe in banks and financing because banks and financing has overinflated the price of things, have made things not their real value. They are inflated values because of financing. And because these are inflated values because of financing, the company is allowed to charge larger prices and prices that are not the real value of the product. And in order for us to get these products, we have to finance. That is a problem. That needs to get out. Let me make another one very clear. I do not believe in insurance companies. Period, point blank. Health insurance, homeowners insurance, car insurance, health insurance, all of these insurance companies the concept of insurance is an indemnity, a way to hedge and protect your assets. Hedge and protect your assets. So the idea of them having a $57 billion profit like Allstate in the year 2023, the idea that they have a profit, especially a profit of $57 billion, is corrupt. It's an indemnity, a way for us to hedge and protect our assets. Why is it a for-profit business in the first place? Insurance companies are crooks. They've made us all believe that we have to have health insurance, we have to have car insurance, we have to have homeowners insurance, and all these other stuff, right? Because nobody can go out there and afford to buy out. Nobody, unless they're billionaires, can go out and pay cash for a home. That is the only way you can avoid paying for homeowners insurance. You can't avoid vehicle insurance. People may opt not to pay it, and it's a crime, but it's a law that everybody has to have vehicle insurance, yet vehicle premiums are unbelievably high. No matter what state you go to, they fluctuate, but it's exceptionally high. Why am I paying a third of my income for vehicle insurance? Or an eighth of my income for vehicle insurance if it's mandated by the state? If it's mandated by the state, it should be at an unbelievably, horribly low cost, and everybody should be able to afford it. And everyone should have it, and the company that's providing it should not have to provide it in efforts to make a profit and be profit-driven by it. It's an indemnity. It is designed to hedge and protect your assets. Not a for-profit organization, corporation, to make billions of dollars off of not paying out for protecting assets. It's a fucked up concept. Insurance I am anti-insurance companies. Anti-insurance companies. Because they're not in it for you to protect as an indemnity to protect your assets. They're in it for them to make profits. Whether it's health insurance companies trying to make profits and skyrocket the cost of medical insurance, or whether it's vehicle insurance skyrocketing the cost of vehicle insurances, it does not matter. They are in it for themselves, not in it as an indemnity to protect you and your assets, which is what the concept is supposed to be. So I'm anti-insurance companies. I'm anti-banks and financing. I'm anti-mandatory wage increases in a minimum wage. But that does not mean, because I'm anti those things, that I can't talk about these problems or be animated or passionate about the fact that these are problems in our society. I am trying my hardest, and what Soapbox Slam is about is trying to shed light on these things. And a lot of you rich people and you rich commentators and people who want to write books and everything else are so detached from the realities. I don't give a fuck about whether or not we are always going to be a racist country. I don't care about that shit. I care about how the fuck I'm going to be prosperous. And if you care about people, then you would be fighting to make people prosperous. That should be your human goal. That should be your human mission, to fight to make people prosperous. If you focus on black issues, fine. Make your black issues and your segregated black issues, figure out how to make that prosperous. Not you for yourself writing books, commentating about shit that does not matter. The fuck does it matter if you're racist if you can't afford to buy a house? What does it matter? Are you fighting to change laws so that people can buy houses? No, you're running your fucking mouth, commentating. Nobody needs that shit. Nobody's gonna be attracted to that shit. Fucking do work. That's what I'm on Soapbox about. That's what I'm trying to create. That is why I'm animated and passionate. Some of these issues that don't have to deal with me at all. Some of these issues have everything to deal with me. But I'm here trying to help people. I'm trying to say shit that make you go, is he right about that? Let me investigate. Let me do my own research. Oh shit, he is right about some of this shit. And when I green screen, I will show you my research as well, you know, but that's a whole nother story, you know. This is what I'm on my soapbox about. This is what I'm passionate about. It's truly what I'm passionate about, because, you know, without prosperity, there's no upward mobility, period. And there's nothing making Americans prosperous anymore. Nothing, except for having $1 billion to invest, $1 million or $700,000 to throw away and gamble on the stock market. You know, you know what? If the government really cares, grant everybody $5,000 and a stock market account, and give them the chance to trade in the stock market. Let everybody trade in the stock market, and let's see what happens, right? And then everybody gets to be prosperous. Give that kind of handout, but do not give me a handout in mandatory minimum wage. Do not give me a handout by making my taxes cheaper or more because I have more kids or anything else. Nah, fuck that. You want to make people do some creative shit like that. Let's see what happens that way. If you really want people to be prosperous, and if the only way, if capitalism and the only way of capitalism is to be investment, give everybody the tool to invest. Let's see if you do that. I doubt it. Anyways, I'm on my soapbox. I got lots of shit to say. Lots of shit to say. And I'm going to keep it coming. Whether you watch, whether you don't agree, disagree, whatever else, I'm going to keep it coming. Because I see all of these things as major, major problems in this country. Like I said, I am not for mandatory minimum wage increase through the federal government. I am very, very, very anti-banks and anti-financing in this country, period, point blank. Just another note. I'm not praising Hitler and I'm not condemning Hitler. I'm going to tell you that one thing that Hitler did that changed his economy around right after World War I was he kicked out the banks and he kicked out insurance companies. He kicked them out and recreated and restructured the entire system of economics in Germany, which was the fastest turnaround in an economy. Fastest turnaround. So fast that they then became creative and ingenuity and research and development and military and science and everything else. Why? Because for dollar, the value of things became their value, and people were able to actually do shit. I don't know if that's the answer or not, but I lean in that direction. Get the fucking banks out of here. We did not have this problem before the Glass-Steagall Act. Before the Glass-Steagall Act, which heavily regulated the banking industry, which year after year since Ronald Reagan, they have tore down the regulations of Glass-Steagall. Okay, this is facts. Look it up. I just said I will throw things out there for you to look up on your own. Glass-Steagall Act. It was a huge regulation that occurred in the 50s or 60s, maybe even the 70s. It was a banking regulations that just basically did not allow the financing to occur, did not allow, you know, huge regulations on borrowing and lending and everything else. And year after year since Ronald Reagan, they tore apart Glass-Steagall. They tore it down. They just picked and choose and tore it down until we got into our financial debacle of 2008. And what the Dobbs Act that Barack Obama instilled, that Dobbs Act, it reinstated some of the Glass-Steagall Act. It reinstated some of those regulations. And then, of course, when Donald Trump came in, it tore them back down again. So since the 80s, and that is why and that is why corresponding, I'm not saying one is a direct cause of the other. What I am saying is it is very coincidental, and I think that we could look into this. But I think that when you look at what happened with the Glass-Steagall Act, and since the 80s when Ronald Reagan took office, some of the issues that occurred and what we're faced in society today has a lot to do with the regulations of financing and banking, lending practices. And that I am anti, as at a bare minimum. I want to go back to the full Glass-Steagall Act. Everything that it stated, go back to it and start from there, and then determine from there if we need to add more regulation or what. But that needs to be the base. Right now, the price of everything is so high, Americans cannot afford. Period. There's no prosperity. There's no prosperity. Period. None. So I do not support banks. I do not support financing. I want to return to the Glass-Steagall Act, and I want banks regulated to the wazoo. The banks are the fucking enemies. They are enemies of the state. The banks. They have politicians in their pockets. They have everybody in their fucking pockets. They have corporations in their pockets. Everybody is in their pockets. Get rid of the fucking banks. Get rid of the fucking financing. Regulate the fuck out of it is what I mean when I say get rid of it. Because this is the detriment of American society. And if you look at American history, we have always gone back and forth with fighting with banks. The government. The difference is, in today's day and age, the government isn't willing to fight against the banks. I can tell you back then, it was a constant battle with each presidency determining whether we were going to be backed by gold, determining whether we were going to be backed by silver, determining whether we were going to be backed by copper, creating true value in the promissory note. The promissory note being backed by something of tangible value, that being gold, that being copper, that being silver. What that did is that made prices real. But because we are not backed by anything except for finance and inflation and credit, since we are only backed by somebody's word, a promise, a promissory note, and some banker determines whether or not they want to be forgiving or call in a debt or whatever, that is what allows these prices to go insane. The banks have the corporations in their hand, they have the politicians in their hand, and they have American society in their hand. Glass-Steagall, look it up and get rid of the fucking banks. And when I say get rid of them, I specifically mean regulate the fuck out of them. Find a representative who is willing to stand up to them. The truth of the matter is they're afraid because they're going to be killed. If they regulate the fuck out of these banks, whoever it is, help, probably even me. If I became a leader and everything else, and these were my platforms on my platform, on my campaign, these were my platforms, Because no Democrat or no Republican is talking about these things. They're not talking about taking on insurance companies. They're not talking about taking on banks. They're not talking about taking on medical insurance companies. They're not talking about taking that stuff on. They're sowing more dissension and tribalism. That's what both parties are doing. They have no real platform. And because they have no real platform, they do not have a mission or direction to take this country. If I were, I guarantee you they'd kill me. I'm willing to die. I am willing to die to get these things through, because I am willing to be that martyr if I know that it's going to make Americans prosperous, all Americans prosperous. The working class and the poor, the working poor, the working class, and the so-called middle class. I'm willing to die to recreate a new middle class in America. And by me, the reason why I say I'm willing to die to do it, because to take on the banks, to take on the insurance companies, to take all this on, they will kill me, but I'm willing to do it. That is how serious and how researched I am. I am not lying to you people. You can be blind sheep and follow your parties, but do the research. Try to look beyond what you are regurgitated. I believe in this enough. I believe that the auto workers and people who are so-called middle class deserve to have more money in their pocket to be prosperous. We are fucking Americans. We are fucking Americans. We need to be walking around the world in our fucking finest suits, being Americans and being charitable, helping everybody out. But right now, we can't help anybody out because we can't afford to even help ourselves out. We can't afford to take care of our own poor, let alone the world's poor. And we're trying to do it. It's insane. It's what I'm on my soapbox about. All right? That's my mission. I'm going to keep it coming. Check it out. You may not like everything I'm saying. You may not like everything I'm talking about. But the truth of the matter is, I am wholeheartedly coming from a place where I want what's best for all Americans. Poor, working class, and quote unquote middle class. As far as the rich, y'all can fend for your own. I mean, you guys are the bootstrap, brilliant people. I mean, let's not be delusional. There are certain people in this world who are born with certain talents to be inventors. Not everybody's going to be an inventor. Yes, I believe an inventor deserves to invent something and make a profit off of what they invented, depending on what they've invented. Medical people, I do not believe deserve to make a huge profit off of their inventions. Yes, they can make a great living, and their living should be well above what the standard person is, because they're giving to society a solution to a problem in health or whatever the case may be scientifically. But they don't deserve to make billions on billions of dollars year over year because of it. That, to me, is not capitalism. And it's not. It is not. Whether you believe in Ayn Rand or whether you follow Adam Smith, nothing that Ayn Rand or Adam Smith have ever written suggests that that is what capitalism is. Nothing does. Absolutely nothing. So I don't, whether you believe in everything I say, whether you trust what I'm saying, whether you think I'm in it for the black cause or you think I'm in it for any cause, I'm telling you now, everything I'm looking for is not just for my own interest. It's what I believe is best for everyone. And I don't want to take anything away from anyone. I just want to add to everyone. It can be done. It can be done. And you don't have to be a socialist, quote unquote socialist, to make these things happen. If you're going to be a capitalist to make these happen, then you have to be a real, true capitalist. And we are not a true capitalist system right now. Absolutely not. Laissez-faire free market is not what's going on. You have to ask yourself, is that real? And it's not. There's no competition. You can't say that there's competition in the phone companies because they all have the same practices. You can't say it. You cannot say it. You cannot say that there's competition among insurance companies because they all have the same practices. They all force you to agree with their terms and everything else. You do not have any other options except for what they force down your throat. Just because there's 5 different automobile insurances does not mean that that's competition when they all have the same practices. That is not capitalism. When it comes to homeowners insurance, I have to, if you own a mortgage, you have to have an insurance company in order to have this mortgage loan. Well, true capitalism would be like you have an option of insurance company, or you have an option of the equivalent of what you would pay to insurance company would be forced into, I'm making this part up and it's an idea that I have, but you would be forced to open up a special savings account where every year the amount of money that you would have given to insurance company would go into that insurance account, that savings account, and that savings account, a high interest yielding savings account, could be used for you to draw upon your own and fix your problems in your house with that. And the lender could protect their asset by that forced savings account being opened. That would be very competitive. That is an example of true competition, laissez-faire competition, and capitalism. What I just presented you, that is true competition and capitalism, not 5 different choices of an insurance company that has the same philosophy and is regulated by a department of insurance that is lobbied and creates laws and rules in the interest of insurance companies. That is not capitalism. Do the research on your own. So I'm on a soapbox about, okay? I am not in it for a specific group like black people. I'm not in it for a specific group like white people. I'm in it. I'm doing this stuff and talking about this stuff and throwing this stuff out there for the interest of everybody, from the poorest person to the best middle class person. I do not believe in the rich people, and I'm not trying to do anything to help them because they're on their own as far as I'm concerned. I don't have hatred towards them. I just don't want to create laws or investigate things that are advantageous to them. Everything has been advantageous to them in the last 60 years. So I'm not in it for them. I'm in it for working class people and middle class people to come together and come up with solutions. And that's what I'm on my soapbox about. And that's what Soapbox Slam is all about. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful day. And I always say it. I try to remember to say it. I don't have a spare dime. I don't have a spare anything in my life right now. I don't even have spare love. I don't have it in me to love somebody in a relationship. I don't have it in me. But it's not going to stop me. If you see somebody who needs compassion, if you need somebody who needs a hug, if you see somebody that needs a helping hand, just do it. Just do it. One act of kindness begets another act of kindness, and that's what we need in the world right now. Right? That's what we need. And that's what I advocate for. So I'll try to remember to do it at every show and remind everybody, try and do something kind. Try and do one act of kindness for somebody. Somebody who not necessarily asking for it, but you can see needs it. Just do it. Do it. It's a good thing to do. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend.